the U.S. women's national team. On Saturday, they were involved in a 0-0 friendly draw against England in front of 78,000 at Wembley Stadium. None of the front three that shined at the Olympics, Sophia Smith, Mal Swanson, or Trinity Rodman, was involved in this match, but the U.S. still had the better of the play, created some good chances. So Emma Hayes has to be relatively content with her first match back in England since taking charge of the U.S.
Yeah, first of all, the spectacle was incredible. Everything that Wembley and England and the FA did to make this game feel big, the atmosphere looked awesome. They had fireworks before the game. The players walked out of the tunnel, and there was smoke, and just the energy within the crowd that you could hear. Really, really great experience, and to see how far, again, the women's game has come. We know what it has done in the United States, but that now in England, the momentum that it's really picked up from them hosting the Women's Euros a couple of years ago to now England being one of the best teams in the world, having been in the last final where they lost to Spain. But I think they believe and know that they have a good team. The game ultimately didn't really match up to that. It was 0-0. There were a couple of early chances. Alyssa Thompson, one of them, who got a start with triple espresso not being there. Great save for Mary Earps in that one. But look, this game ultimately, and this is kind of an interesting period for the U.S. women's national team now and Emma Hayes, is that you really don't have any competitive games now until the 2026 World Cup qualifiers, the 2027 Women's World Cup. And it's an interesting opportunity for her to now analyze the players that could potentially be a part of this roster and start to come up, the new generation of players. And I was thinking about it, and I was looking at the age of the front three between Robin Swanson and Sophia Smith, 22, 26, 24. So those three are not going anywhere anytime soon. So even if you're Emma Sears, who got another start as part of this team, Alyssa Thompson, who came on towards the end of the NWSL season, you're trying to push players out that are really just hitting the prime of their career. So I think this next year now for Emma Hayes is about finding who are the players that can build out the rest of that squad, continue to push the starters that are there, because I think this was one of the things and areas that Vlatko Andonovski really fell short of going into the Australia and New Zealand Women's World Cup, was that the squad was starting to age a little bit. There weren't the next generation of players that were coming or having more opportunities to push those players. And so I think Emma Hayes has really got a nice year or so now to experiment, to try to see some of these younger players in the squad and feel like who can really make it and cut it at that next level.
The thing I keep coming back to is we were there in Australia, New Zealand in the summer of 23 when the U.S. crashed out in the round of 16 of the World Cup, and Spain ended up winning the tournament in style. And the narrative was that the world had passed the U.S. by. And all it took was bringing in an elite coach like Emma Hayes, and the U.S. has gotten its mojo back. They're unbeaten under Emma, 12 wins, 2 draws in 14 games. Next up on Tuesday, they'll play away to the Netherlands in a rematch of the 2019 World Cup final. But I think with all these young players the U.S. has, including Lily Johannes, the latest who pledged her allegiance to the U.S., now Emma Hayes has 2.5 years to work. I think this is trending towards the U.S. arriving at the 2027 World Cup in Brazil as co-favorites alongside Spain.
Oh, 100%, undoubtedly. And you think about the back line. Left back scenario, you maybe wonder who's going to be the next player to... Casey Kruger got the start. She's 34 years old. Crystal Dunn is a little bit older now. Neiswanger's also got a chance in that position. So I think you're looking at one or two positions. And really, I was actually thinking about this watching the game. Emma Hayes has predominantly played a 4-3-3 since her time in charge. Now, she likes to mix up the build-up. She'll push a fullback a little bit higher. She'll build out with 3. But if you're looking at the attacking talent that this U.S. team has, you could make a case that this is arguably the most talented and deepest generation of attacking players, assuming that now Alyssa Thompson takes that next step forward, Emma Sears takes a step forward, because you still have triple espresso that are going to be there, probably going to be the starters. So does she try to experiment with the lineup potentially over the next year and a half in formation and trying to find a way, maybe playing with back 3, with Naomi Girma being the rock at the back and having 2 strong defenders next to her, getting another attacking player on the field, and ultimately for the U.S. to have different options of playing attacking-wise, because they could have such a stacked, not only front line, but you mentioned Lily Johannes. Yasmin Ryan was great when she came on in the second half. So there's a lot of players that are pushing. Rose Lavelle still there. Lindsay Horan's still there. So I feel good. And you're right. The sky was falling after Australia, New Zealand. And all of a sudden, a year later, gold medalist, good coach, good young attacking players that have developed into the type of player we had hoped. And the U.S. is in really good shape. And I think we'll be in an even better shape come 2027.
And Lily Johannes, that's the one lineup change I would like to see for Tuesday's game. I'd like to see her get a start. That would be very juicy because she chose the U.S. over the Netherlands. You mentioned Naomi Girma. She really is a Rolls Royce at the back, was incredible again in this game. Alyssa Nair picking up a shutout in her second to last game for the U.S. She announced that she's going to retire at the end of this year, so Tuesday against the Netherlands will be it for her. And there's now this fun debate that sprang up after the Olympics this past summer. I asked all our guests about it. I asked Carly Lloyd, Leslie Osborne, Alyssa Nair versus Hope Solo. Who is the greatest goalkeeper in U.S. women's history?
What were the other choices? I saw Leslie. She said Hope. I'm Alyssa Nair. And look, Hope Solo. I recently watched. Speaking of what have you watched? I watched the documentary on her. A lot of different feelings about that. And look, she was undoubtedly one of the best talents we had ever seen. A player that picked up goalkeeping very late in her development as a player. Athletically, I think one of the best and probably the best athleticism compared to Alyssa Nair. But I just think Nair's ability to come up with the big save at the right time in the biggest moment without any of the surrounding controversy, because to me, if you're the greatest of all time, I think that also plays a part of that conversation. She's goes about her business, ultimate professional. She saved that penalty in the semifinals on their route to winning the 2019 Women's World Cup. And I just think that she, for me, is the best goalkeeper of all time in U.S. women's national team history.
I buy that.
Yeah.
You like that clip? Well, my State of the Union podcast drops twice a week right here on my very own YouTube page. The only way to stay up to date is to hit that subscribe button down below. Size the day, and see you soon.